Will Jonathan be the main character in the show tomorrow?
No.
He will.
No. Tomorrow is a support situation. When we do our own tour, when we come back, we will do the record in its entirety from the beginning to end. And we've shot this story in movie form, and we will be using a lot of that when we do the show. But we're still debating as to how to use it. But I don't know how well you know this story, but it's a pathetic little story. It's not very pretty, especially what happens to him. I mean, this kid he's miserable. And the moral of the story is be careful what you wish for and make them true, right? But it's more of a situation of a kid that he starts out, he wants to climb this mountain, and all he knows is that he's at the foot of the mountain and he's miserable. So he thinks if he gets to the top of the mountain, he'll be happier. Bottom line is that once he gets there, he looks around and he's still miserable. He realized he was better off on the bottom. At least he was when he was miserable down there, at least he had somewhere to go. Now he's on top, he's got nowhere to go. And it's a pretty pathetic situation, because I've seen a lot of people end up like this. And I mean, knock on wood, I hope it doesn't happen to me. But I don't think it will, because I mean, I'm not in that frame of mind to begin with. But I think it's an important story that needs to be told. And as far as him appearing, like I said, what you'll see when it's done in movie form, you see him grow from a small boy to to an adult or whatever. And after you see it, you may not want to have seen it. It's like it's the type of thing. I've seen it already, and I had all these characters running around my head for years, and then when I saw it in film form, it was very, very moving experience, and it was very difficult to watch. And I've seen it twice, and I haven't seen it since, and I really don't have any desire to see it again, because I wrote Pete Townsend a letter about a month ago, and I told him what I had gone through, because I told him in the beginning that I wanted to do this story. We talked about it, and he, gave me his blessings and patted me on the back and sent me off, So I wrote him a letter the other day, and I said, this took me on a very bizarre journey, where I learned things about myself and other people, and it's a journey that I'm not sure that I would like to ever repeat again. So when you say to me, is he going to make an appearance? That's a very scary question to me, because see, in my mind, he's always there, or he is and he isn't. It's a very, very unusual feeling for me. And even when we do the film, little bit, but it's mostly a conglomeration of a lot of different people. You know, I know a lot of guys in the business, so I took a little bit from one person, a little from another, a little from another, a little bit from me, and put them all together, and that's who you have. But, this story is quite a bit more common than people think that it is. And I get asked one question by the fans over and over again. They say, give me some advice. How do I get from where I'm at to where you're at? And so I thought, okay, I'm going to tell them a story about the worst possible side of this business. Once they've heard this story, you know, it's like the anti-spinal tap. You know, once they've heard it, they think they still want to continue and go on. Hey, go for it. Be my guest. Because if somebody would have told me 10 years ago what this was really all about, I still would have done it anyway. But the difference is, I wanted it really, really badly. And the problem is that they think they want it, but they don't really know what's involved. I mean, when these kids all go to the show tomorrow, they're never going to stop to think about any given band on that stage, how that band gets from their garage to that stage. And I'm here to tell you, that is a select fraternity that makes it that far. And there's a lot of ground in between. Most don't make it. And they fall by the wayside and they get gobbled up like Pac-Man, you know. That's really, they have their lives ruined. So I thought, okay, I'm going to tell them this story and see what they think at the end of it. So to go, like I said, to go through this rather bizarre journey was very, very depressing because my life is not like this, boys. So to get, excuse me?
Has it ever been?
Well, there's been times, but I mean, for the most part, I'm happy. You know, I'm happy with myself. You know, of where I've gotten to, but that's kind of putting the wagon before the horse. You know, it's like you got to get happy with yourself to begin with before then you can go on to do anything. Because if you any kind of success you achieve, if you're not happy with yourself, I would think that that's pretty shallow. And that must be a god-awful thing. And I've seen that happen to people that I know get mega successful and they're still staring these demons in the face all the time. That's the reason that the mirror is such an important part of this story. It's because the kid can't face himself. You know, I mean, the mirror is very, very symbolic.
You say you don't wanna run and hide, a place that no one knows, and everyone you meet, you're gonna show. You're nobody's slave, nobody's dreams are holding you. Girl, your fist up high and move the two. Oh, you just got to be a man where the whole world's watching me. 'Cause I got to be somebody to cry out. I wanna be somebody soon. I wanna be somebody soon. I wanna be somebody soon. I wanna be somebody too. You say you don't wanna stop or take the table crumbs and all. You don't wanna beg or plead at all. You don't want no 9 to 5 your fingers to the bone. You don't want the rock house bloody down. Oh, you just got to be a man where the whole world's watching me. 'Cause I got to be somebody to cry out. I wanna be somebody soon. I wanna be somebody too. I wanna be somebody soon. I wanna be somebody too. I'm watching calls and dirty money, lots of rock and roll. I will live in fame and dance flames that never get old.
I know that I am a political radical at heart, down deep inside. I mean, I see a lot of things in the world that I don't like. I know that the next record that we do will be very politically oriented. as far as conceptual records and telling stories, like I said, this was a journey that I'm not sure that I want to repeat again, at least not for a while. I need to back off and let some of the bad memories of this record kind of get away from me for a while, because 2 years making this thing, every day I was in there. It was very, very depressing. You can't get in. I mean, this boy became as real to me as you're sitting here right now. You can't develop characters. You can't just give them a name and expect them to be real. You got to give them a heart, a soul, and a mind, and a personality. You have to know them just as well as you'd know somebody in your family before you can attempt to send them on a journey. Because if you don't know them that well, you don't know how they're going to react in any given situation. So you've got to, I mean, they've got to be real.
You said bad memories. Does that mean you're still happy with that you made it?
Yeah, but I'm glad it's over with. I would not want to do it again right now.
It's just like you had a child still.
Just like what?
You had a child. You mean you built it?
Well, I've never had kids before, so I don't know what that's like. It's more like a brother. Watching somebody that you can't really do anything about. And in that sense, there was somebody in another band, a well-known band that you would know who it is, who was very, very close to me at one point. And I watched him go through a lot of this. And there is a lot of him in this story. To the point where our friendship disintegrated because I felt helpless and I couldn't do anything to help him. You know, I mean, the kid had so many demons in his mind. No one was going to help him but him. And so doing this record conjured up a lot of those things in me. You know, it's like I said, I mean, I'm not one of these kind of people who likes to dwell on things like that. I just would rather get on with my life and try to make the best of it. So. But you were asking me about, where we were going to go. I've changed a lot in the last few years, 5 years probably. And I realize why I'm here on this earth. I've been given a very, very great gift. And the gift is not talent to sing or to play music. The gift is that to communicate, to speak to people.
Open your mind.
Open their minds as well. And to be able to show someone, especially 15 to 25 years old, to show them another side of something, to tell them the truth about what's really going on in the world. That's why I've been put here. That's the reason I did the Crimson Idol, because like I said, I keep getting that question asked over and over again. Give me some advice. The best thing I can do is give them the benefit of my experience, to try to tell them what it's really, really about. From a political point of view, we go all over the world. We've heard every government song and dance from everywhere. I've heard it in Norway, I've heard it in Sweden, I've heard it in Portugal, I've heard it everywhere, You hear a little bit from one side, a little from another. All the bullshit that we hear in America and all that stuff. It's important that artists use that position to report to the people exactly what they've seen. Because see, what I do for a living and what all of you do for a living is exactly the same thing. We are all reporters. You use radio, written medium, whatever. It's the same thing. I use music.
Oh, baby. It's great.
It's better than that. You do enough of this stuff and you can be fucking.
Jonathan, I'd like you to meet a friend of mine, Tanya.
What the bloody hell's going on here? Well, if it isn't the world-renowned Alex Rodman, the best manager money can buy. You've got all the friends money can buy. You know damn well you're supposed to be in the studio tomorrow, and here you sit with these fucking leeches all around you. And if you don't stop this fucking debauchery, I'm leaving you. You got it? This little party is officially over. Get out! Everybody get out!
and you really have me from the fuck like a beast to like more important things. So did something special happen in your life that made you change like this?
I think coming back to my roots basically was one of them, but a lot. It's not one given incident. It's a lot of things. You know, you get fan mail when people write you letters about tragic things that have happened to them, or when people come up to you on the street. One thing that all new bands don't think about is, allow me to be painfully honest with you for a second. All guys who get into music, I don't give a shit what they tell you. They're getting into rock and roll to get their dick sucked. And if they tell you anything else, they're a fucking liar. I did it, everybody else does it. But after you're there for a while, you start to realize that there is more to life than news, weather, and sports, you know? And you look around. The one thing that scares you to death is you first get a record deal. You work your ass off to get a record deal, right? And you finally, if you're that 1 in a million that gets a record deal, you go, thank God, you know, I'm finally here. Somebody comes up to you and says, well, now you're in a position of a little bit of power. Got to take some responsibility now, don't you? And you go, fuck that. Man, I worked my ass off to get here. We ain't going to be having any of that shit. I'm going out. I'm having fun. Screw that. No way. But after you're there for a while, and people come up to you and they tell you stories, you don't realize the millions and millions of people you're touching. I mean, I just did a 3-month promotional tour at the beginning of this year. Went all through Europe, all through South America, Asia, Canada, America. In that period of time, between all the television, radio, and stuff we did, I did 45,000 miles, 600 interviews. We reckon that we touched conservatively about 200 million people. That's a lot of folks. And I was talking about being given a great gift. Well, the gift is the platform that we stand on. And we stand on this platform, and when we speak, the whole world listens to what we say, the whole world. And when you're a new band, somebody says, well, you got responsibility. That the word itself scares you to death, much less the reality. Forget that. Can't even deal with a word, much less the meaning behind it. You know, I mean, it's a whole myriad of stages that you have to go through. And people come up to you and they tell you things like how something that they might have listened to that you did changed their life. And they go into great detail about how their life changed. First couple times you hear that stuff, and you go, and it goes through one ear and out the other. Not that you disbelieve them, you don't want to hear it, because it represents responsibility staring you in the face, you know, and you don't want to cope with that. I could tell you countless stories about how things like that have happened, and pretty soon it just starts adding up in your mind, and you go, yes, I am, a lot of people are listening to me, because see, you write a song or you do a video or whatever, you're in controlled circumstances in your own little make-believe world. But what you don't see is that video or that album. Okay, you do a television show. Do one television show, walk out on the street the next day. You're coming into millions and millions of people's homes. You're coming into their living room, this place that they hold, you know, very sanctimoniously, or, you know, very private, very personal to them. And here you are in their house. Well, you know, hey, we're sitting here right now doing this interview. It's just the 4 of us, right? You know, but what's going to happen when this goes out? Millions of people are going to be affected by this. So when you really come to grips with the true, quote, reality of this, there's no way you can deny that you're having an effect on people. So you might as well use it the best way you can. Because the biggest waste of a human life, especially with what we do, is to think that somebody turned 70 years old and wake up one day and go, I had the greatest opportunity in the world to say something, had everybody listening to me, and I didn't. That would be something that probably less than 1% of the total population that's ever walked the face of the earth will ever do. And those are all, they're heavy things for bands to understand, and it scares the shit out of them. But you have to come to grips with it. And I have. And I feel good about it, because I know that I'm saying the right things.
I have time for one question. Myself, I see us change between the 2-3 first W.A.S.P albums, then to the Headless Children.
Headless was the beginning.
Then a real change from the Headless Children again to the new one.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because I think that Crimson Idol is just an extension of what
I
Headless
see
started.
many similarities between the Headless Children and the Crimson Idol, but
Musically or just message-wise? Because to me the message is the same.
Musically, they'll both be just sing and play guitar maybe the same way, but you still will continue to use the W.A.S.P name on your records, even if it's only you left.
Well, that's not true because Johnny's still with me. Johnny's been on every W.A.S.P record except for the first 2.
Yeah.
So that would be unfair to him to not call it W.A.S.P. But also, I think there's something else that's equally as important, is that if we did not call it W.A.S.P, people would listen to it and they go, well, this sounds like W.A.S.P, why didn't they just call it W.A.S.P,
Yeah.
So it's like,
There's the financial side of this, of the issue, and is it right for you to call it W.A.S.P?
No, there's no difference. The kids all know who I am.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make any difference at all. I thought up the name and I wrote all the songs before, so I like to think that I have the right to do whatever I want to with it. So I'm comfortable.
Now that the dark age acts like Alice Cooper and some Megadeth are mellowing down, you still keeping your dark age.
How so?
Also, it's sort of a message to play a little bit with the same typology to sell demons.
Not in a... I should clarify that word then. When I say demons, I mean personal demons. I don't mean like religious or anything like that. I don't agree with anything that any band does that has anything to do with the occult. I personally think it's a bunch of bullshit. I studied the occult for 3 years. I know what I'm talking about. I think it's something that should not be tampered with. They're dealing with something that they don't know what they're doing. And it can be a very, very ugly thing. And I think it's a negative influence, and I don't want any kind of negative stuff around me. So, as far as other bands and stuff, I can't compare myself to them. The only thing I know is I'm just doing my own thing. I'm saying what's on my mind and in my heart.
But you've been accused a lot about being Satanist, like the W.A.S.P was supposed to mean we are Satan's people and stuff like that.
I heard we are sexual perverts. I heard them all. I heard a new definition once a week.
Yeah.
See, I tell you the truth. We wanted a name that was controversial without really being controversial. So in other words, if you have a definition, fine. We were the first band to ever use periods in our name. No one had ever done that before us. And that was like the first real genius stroke, because we knew it would drive people crazy, because they saw the periods, they go, what the hell does this mean? Well, it didn't mean anything, but it did a couple of things. Like I said, we knew it would drive people crazy, but also the words were in capital letters, so whenever you saw the word in print, it took up 3 times as much space as any other thing. You could scan down a paragraph and it would just stick out like a sore thumb, and it worked great for all those reasons. So you ask me why I still use the name? For all of those reasons. That's why I still do it.
Change what it means. Can't you see the real me?
Hi there, this is Blackie Lawless from W.A.S.P, and you're listening to Summer Pulse. Hi there, this is Blackie Lawless from W.A.S.P, and you're listening to Summer Pulse.